Hello and welcome to Secrets of Organ Playing podcast. We are your hosts, Vidas Pinkevičius
and Aušra Pinkevičienė.
We've been mastering secrets of organ playing for more than 20 years and sharing them on this blog since 2011.
On this show, which we create from our home in Vilnius, Lithuania, we strive to help you grow in every area of organ playing, including practice, technique, repertoire, sight reading, hymn playing, improvisation, composition, music theory, harmony, and many others.
Our hope is to help you become a complete musician, or what we call as total organist, a program which we have created to help you reach your dreams faster than you would do on your own.
If you are new here, we invite you to subscribe to receive free updates of this blog at organduo.lt. By subscribing, you will also receive free video how to master any organ composition and 10-day organ playing mini course.
And now let's go to the podcast for today. Hi guys, this is Vidas.
And Aušra.
Let's start episode 500 of Secrets of Organ Playing podcast.
Wow, we made it, 500. Can you believe it?
Yeah, we can stop now.
No, now we have to reach 1000.
Do you believe we can reach it?
I don't know. When we just started it, I thought, maybe we will do 50 of them or maybe 100. But we reached 500, so...
Our horizon is always moving very further away.
True. And it's because of all your wonderful questions.
Yes. In this episode today, we wanted to give a little bit of overview of what we've been talking about over those few years. Obviously, in our website, you will find all of them, and also on our SoundCloud channel as well. But to make a long story short, I started those podcasts as interviews with organ experts and organ builders and organists from around the world, maybe 3 years ago, I believe. But then started another podcast called Ask Vidas and Aušra. You remember, Aušra?
Yes, I remember. I think you started your interview podcast earlier than 3 years ago.
Earlier, right?
Probably.
I will just quickly check when was the first episode published on SoundCloud. Yeah, very easy to check. Number 1 was 4 years ago.
I told you that it's more than 3 years.
With Gene Bediant on historically inspired organ building. And then number 2 was George Ritchie on playing Bach's organ music. And number 3 was Pamela Reuter-Finstra on improvisation in the Bach style. And number 4 was Jan Karman about writing organ fugues on the melodies of the Genevan Psalter. And number 5 was Mary Murrell and Quentin Faulkner's on Bach's organ world. So basically those first maybe 10 people that we interviewed were from our early circle, with the exception perhaps of Hans Ole Eriksson, who visited Vilnius and gave a master class and played a recital here. And it was really exciting. Before we started, or I started those podcast interviews, it was always a thought in my mind, will I have enough people to talk about from around the world? Because, some organists are difficult to reach. You write a message to them and some reply and some don't. And since we are now at 500, apparently, we haven't stopped.
Well, but remember that now we talk with each other a lot.
Yeah.
Answering questions.
For a while, I had two podcasts in parallel of each other. One was Secrets of Organ Playing podcast with experts and organists and guests, and the other was our talks with Osha, answering your questions, and we basically called it Ask Vidas and Osha. Remember, perhaps, but then for a while I stopped interviewing people from other countries, and only we talked
with each other.
with each other.
So why have you stopped them? Was it too hard for you, or too time consuming, or too stressful?
It was not stressful, obviously, but time consuming, chasing those experts and following them up and looking for good material to talk about, doing research about them. And it seemed like it was a lot on my plate
But
to
actually,
do two podcasts together.
now you have renewed doing it.
Yeah, starting from this summer, I think
Yes.
a few months ago, I renewed. And the reason was that because I no longer work at school, I have much more free time and can interview guests much more easily this way.
So, what do you remember most out of those 4 years?
Each and every one was really unique. Those guests, you mean, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Those guests, probably not all of them on the same level. Sometimes we interviewed our students, sometimes colleagues, sometimes really experts, which are hard to reach. Like, for example, at number 43, yeah, Guy Beauvais, on the future of organ art. We talked on the phone with him because he couldn't connect his video camera, and it still worked, it was wonderful, but I was really afraid to talk with such a master, right? And then sometimes people who knew previously, like Sarah Schott from our Grace Lutheran Church. She talked about working with bell choirs, and Alain Trouche, who was our colleague at Lincoln, University of Nebraska Lincoln. He is living now in Asia. And there were many other people who I really enjoyed talking to. Some people visited Vilnius with recitals, like Charles Spanner, for example, and he shared his own experience with trying out different organs. I remember 4 years ago was exactly the time when the last international organist competition of Mikalojus Konstantinas Čiurlionis happened in Vilnius. So I interviewed two jury members, Sophie Veronique Cochefer-Choplin from Paris, and also Michael Bauer from University of Kansas. We were sitting in the hotel lobby, and it was really interesting to talk to them, but also at the same time to hear the background noises of the kitchen. There were other guests and other very interesting organists like Peter Sykes and Gavin Black and Nico de Klerk, who has organ radio project. And we talked with James D. Hicks, who visited Vilnius with his Nordic Journey project. He actually even climbed the bell tower of St. John's Church, and it was really a fabulous experience. I even interviewed one organist who is also a pianist on a cruise ship. So it was really interesting to hear his different perspective. Carson Kuhlman, obviously, organist in residence from the Harvard University, very profound and prolific composer of new organ music. Lydia Fröhendevai and Erin Schisely about Orgel Kids, this little project that you can educate young people how the organ is constructed by building the organ in front of them and deconstructing and reconstructing them. They have organ positive designed for that too.
So this is amazing how many people you have interviewed and what sort of variety you can find on your podcast.
Jean-Paul Imbert, for example, on Lessons from the Great Masters. We just recently met him in Vilnius.
True.
But because of this podcast, he invited us to perform at
Alpe d'Huez.
Exactly, in the French Alps. All kinds of doors started opening to us. Ture Bjorn Larsen, for example, was a guest on podcast number 79, and he is a composer in Denmark, in Svendborg. And afterwards, he also invited us to play in his church, St. Nikolai Church, which we played
last summer, yes.
Yeah, a few months ago.
What, a few months? It was, July 31st, and now it's September, so it's not a few months.
1.5 months.
Yes.
Excellent. Interesting. For example, I interviewed sometimes people who were not organists actually, but from different professions, but they had some sort of connection with the organ world through restoration, for example. This was sometimes they visited Kasparini organ in Vilnius here, and we talked about that. And then 2 years ago we started this Ask Vidas and Ausra podcast, and the first episode was about how to keep a steady tempo when you play the organ. Remember, Ausra, why we started talking about that? About talking with each other in addition to interviewing the guests?
I think because this is one of the major problems that many organists encounter.
We wanted to, help you grow and to answer your questions on the podcast. Yeah. So those episodes were also very many in number, and we sometimes, kept going in parallel with Secrets of Organ Playing interviews. But then, as I said earlier, I found it too difficult to continue and only started talking with Ausra. But now we merged two podcasts into one and only have Secrets of Organ Playing podcast. And today is episode number 500.
Amazing.
Yes. We hope you guys find value out of our conversations and continue asking questions, giving feedback, because I recently started doing those interviews with guests. So I hope you will find those interviews also useful. Please let us know, and please let our guests know and feel appreciated, because it's really important to them to know if their interview has resonated or not with the audience from around the world, from 89 countries. This is amazing.
Do you know what I remember the most?
No, Ausra.
One organist by name of Ugo Chukwu.
Ugo Chukwu?
There was a time when he just kept sending us the questions and we kept answering them. But then he was disappointed because he could not get answers right away. And he stopped, actually, I think, following us. But it's so funny because it's such a remarkable name, Ugochukwu, and I wasn't sure if I'm pronouncing it right.
He's African, I think.
So after, even when he stopped asking us questions, I would still remember his name. And each time when Vidas would tell me that this question was sent by somebody, in my mind, I would keep telling myself, by Ugochukwu.
And sometimes we really had funny situations while talking with Osha. Recording beginning of podcasts were especially funny sometimes and tricky. When I announce this is the opening episode of number, let's say 300 or 200 and something, and then I have to announce the question. And sometimes by reading this question I get stuck and you have to do it again and again and again. I remember one episode we started laughing hysterically, right, Osha?
Yes, I guess we were just so tired and yeah.
I even saved this podcast, which was as a hysterical laugh. So maybe when the time comes, we can laugh together again.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, listening together.
And of course, there were questions, like sent by Michael, where he asked a lot about things, and suggested us various topics, for our podcasts. And we haven't answered him that yet, but maybe someday we will come back to that question and we'll explore more.
It was like a list of 10 or 15 questions, like a true masterclass, 1 week long.
That's right.
It's not for 10-minute conversation, obviously. So thank you guys. Please continue sending us your questions. We love helping you grow. And it's really amazing to be on this journey, and we hope to reach 1000.
Let's do it.
This was Vidas.
And Usha.
And remember, when you practice,
miracles happen.
This blog is supported by Total Organist, the most comprehensive organ training program online, where you will find courses for every area of organ playing, including technique, practice, sight reading, repertoire playing, hymn playing, improvisation, composition, music theory and harmony, with hundreds of scores and thousands of exercises. Here is what some of the students are saying.
Hugh writes, the sight reading course has helped me tremendously. Thank you very much for your SS courses and all your help.
Robert writes, I found the fingerings, registration ideas and general comments to be excellent.
John writes, I have found your download very helpful. It was really excellent. I have watched some of your teaching videos and when I read your instructions, I tried to imagine you are there teaching me. You may feel disappointed that I am 2-3 days behind, but I am a slow learner. And I have committed to taking the time to get it right, as you say. But the other night my wife commented that she had never heard me play such a detailed melody in the left hand so well. My left hand is generally poor.
Robert writes, it has been a great pleasure in my life of having discovered your courses and material as well as the YouTube work of recordings. You have a calm and pleasant way of teaching.
Ron writes, Hi Vidas and Osha, thank you guys. What a wonderful response to my email note to you. You've got me right, and I feel you understand my level of playing. Yes, at home and lucky that I have an organ for that reason. I am paying attention to this, and I am going to try this haha no longer secret model. Yes, and I love Cesar Frank too. What is very nice about your blog podcast is that Osha and Vidas are like a Socratic dialogue, and by bouncing things off of each other, so much more information comes out and is expressed. Your comments contain a wealth of information and understanding. I really appreciate this. It is very inspiring and will keep us moving forward.
Would you like to receive the same or even better results that our students are getting? If so, join them at organduo.lt org/total-organist. And of course, you will get the first month free too. You can cancel anytime.
Also, if you haven't yet subscribed to receive free updates of this blog, make sure you do that at organduo.lt. By subscribing, you will also receive free video, how to master any organ composition and 10-day organ playing mini course.
This was Vidas
and Ausra from Secrets of Organ Playing.
And remember, when you practice,
miracles happen.